The Georgia tight end room is special. It's a three-headed monster. You got Oscar Delp, you got Brock Bowers. You hope to have Darnell Washington for this football game in SoFi Stadium. I think it's important you do. But Georgia is very unique in how they operate offensively. A lot of it has to do with that tight end room, y'all. A lot of it. They live in what we call 12 personnel. And 12 personnel, to put it as simply as possible, one running back, two tight ends. Everyone likes to sound smart and put 12 personnel on things and say 12 personnel. It's just playing two tight ends. That's what that second number means. And a lot of these teams just straight up can't match up with Georgia. Like, not to be disrespectful, but the unicorns they have in that room is why they're able to be really effective offensively. Also, Stetson Bennett's a dog, so that's one thing. But I'm telling you, schematically, they ask a lot of their tight ends, and I want to break down why. For starters, they're all big dudes. Like Darnell Washington, 6'7", 270. He's like a peanut butter sandwich shy of being an offensive tackle that can run pretty fast. You got Oscar Delp, who's 6'5", 225. You got the unicorn himself, Brock Bowers, 6'4", 230. So what does all this mean, JD? You're telling me these numbers, telling me they're big dudes. I already knew that. I got eyes. They work just fine. Okay, well, I hear you. What that does to a defense, schematically, I have to match your mass, is what I like to say. Because when I have big human beings and Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington out there, let's just use them for example. We hope Darnell Washington can go, by the way. We hope he's able to go. We'll see. It's looking like it's 50-50. When I have big human beings out there, you have to match that. Because if you're a safety, if I want to go with what I call like a fast personnel, I want to put my fast guys out there. Typically, the fast guys, guess what? They're not super heavy. They usually ring in right around 200 pounds, maybe 210 if we're being optimistic. That's great, but when we're running the football downhill at you, there's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide. All right, the boogeyman's coming after you. His name is Brock Bowers, Darnell Washington, Oscar Delp. They're all coming after you downhill. You can't dodge out of the way of that. And if you do, guess what? Running back's coming right behind me. So, okay, you're going to be in fast personnel. We're going to out-physical you. We're going to run the football. All right, you know what? We're tired of having you just pancake our safety. We're tired of having you just run us over like it's a Tonka truck. We're going to play with some heavier guys out there, okay? That means our linebackers are heavier. Safeties, they're not as fast. I'll give you that. They're not as fast, but you are not going to bully us anymore. We're done with that. Give me that lunch money back. That's the approach. Well, that's all well and good, but here's the reality. They're unicorns, like I said. So matchup-wise, if I'm a linebacker and I'm like 230, I'm trying to run with Brock Bowers, it ain't going to happen. You know, I mean, you're not going to match up with Brock Bowers effectively. He's going to run right past you. He's going to go vertical. He's going to score a touchdown. You're going to hear that Georgia band just rocking and rolling. One of my favorite bands, by the way. I think they do a great job. Love hearing them in the broadcast. Brock Bowers, freak. Darnell Washington, size-wise, I don't know how you match up with him. Like, even if you are 230, even if you are in my hip pocket, I'm just going to throw an alley-oop to him from Stetson Bennett. I'm going to put it at the rim, let Big O go get it, and that's kind of the way that we're going to live, man. And in the red zone, that's going to work really well. So that's going to be tricky. That is crucial, though. They have Darnell Washington available. Oscar Delp, limited sample size, 6'5", 225, so he's not necessarily the same, not even necessarily. He's not at all the same width of Darnell Washington, doesn't present that same physical presence, but still, 6'5", 225, we're sort of splitting hairs here. He's still going to be a problem for whoever you have to match up with. But you hear what I'm saying here. From a matchup perspective, it is tough to stick with big physical human beings. You don't have an answer necessarily. That's always quite as simple. So you got to get creative defensively. If you haven't yet subscribed, we'd love to have you at the party. We'd love to have you a part of our program. We cover this thing year-round. 12 months out of the year, we got you. Clock's going to hit triple zeros in SoFi Stadium. I promise you, it's going to happen. Nick Brake and myself, we're fortunate enough to be able to be there. When it does, though, the college football content realm will get a little bit scarce. Not here. We got you year-round, 365 days. We cover this beautiful sport according to how it operates. Also, follow me on Instagram and Twitter at JD Piquel. A lot of things on those platforms we can then incorporate back into this show. Also a great medium for us to interact, like I already mentioned. when it comes to having two tight ends on the field like this, when you have so much versatility with these guys, it's tough as a defense because there's no tell when you're a play caller. Like, usually when you have two tight ends on the field, I say, okay, two big human beings, what are we going to do? They're probably going to run the football. And Kirby Smart said as much, we don't have to sacrifice size and speed when we have those guys out there. We can line Brock Bowers up, and we can just go deep. We view him as a receiver for us. He can do those kinds of things, is essentially what they're telling me with how they call the offense. They can go vertical and do the smash mouth game equally well without having to change personnel. So if I'm a defensive coordinator, I got to look elsewhere besides personnel groupings to figure out what Georgia's doing. I'm off balance. In some sense, I might have to guess. I got to look at the formation, which they're already doing. I understand that. But it just is an extra added advantage during the week for Georgia that they don't have to surrender anything on that side of things. They don't have to give up size or speed in order to call different plays. They can call four verts, they can call outside zone, and be just fine with either guy on the field. So, like I said, very, very crucial for Darnell Washington to be out there because of this, the way that he adds to the trenches. Unofficially, just by scanning the roster for Georgia, the offensive line is somewhere in the range of like 300, 310 pounds is kind of the average weight from what I can glean. Darnell Washington's 270. I mean, if you let him hold your next door neighbor's dog, he's the same weight. Like, he's going to overpower whoever you have in front of him, is what I'm trying to tell you. To add an extra physical presence on the end, it's hard to account for. Even if you scheme it up effectively, you probably have to commit extra resources to helping whoever that is in the run game. And so if he can play in the run game especially, that's going to mean a lot for Georgia. Now, going back to what I said about the way that they use them in the pass game, just breaks your rules. Because if I'm a defender, I view a tight end and a wide receiver differently with how I'm lining up, with how I'm calling my defense. And when Brock Bowers is out there, defensively, do we call him a tight end coach? Or do we call him a receiver? He runs a 4.5 40. What do we do? How do you want me to play? You tell me what the solution is here, coach. So I'm not saying this is going to guarantee Georgia winning the football game. I'm just telling you, they have a lot of different problems they can pose for you, which there's not a simplistic answer. Hear what I'm saying here? So the matchup to watch in this game, I think unequivocally, is the TCU safeties and the Georgia tight ends. And the reason why I believe that is because they ask a lot of both of those position groups respectively within their programs, or respectively within their programs. Respectively, too. I think they're very nice when they ask them to do it. The TCU safeties, they're going to ask them, like we've said already in this live show, they're going to ask them to trigger on the run semi-consistently. You have some sort of run support responsibility. At the same time, hey, you better not trigger too quickly because you have some pass responsibilities as well. You got to keep a lid on this defense for us. Same thing with Georgia. They're going to ask them to run block. They're going to ask them to go deep. That back and forth, keeping them honest in terms of how much they go vertical with those tight ends, could really set the tone. Like I said, I've told you I think Georgia's going to come out swinging, throwing the football. I think they're going to throw it early and often like we saw against Ohio State. If you can win the early matchup and make those TCU safeties just maybe think twice a little bit before they go downhill. Maybe just have a second thought of, could this be a pass? Guess what? The ball is already with Kenny McIntosh. He's already got a head of steam, and he's already 2-3 yards downfield with more space to work. Safety's got to fill. That's where I think this could really be effective for Georgia. So all in all, it's an embarrassment of riches for Georgia in the tight end room. I would say at least in 2022, you got to call them tight end university. A lot of other schools up for that title. Don't get too mad at me. I'm just calling it how I see it. Again, the Georgia Bulldogs, 59% of the time, they're lining up 12 personnel, 2 tight ends on the field, most in FBS. They present problems. TCU will have their work cut out for them. They will have to solve it. And I don't envy them one bit. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.